Hi, ladies and gentlemen. How are you guys? I'm doing all right. All right, this documentary, as you know, will be science proving flat Earth theory, or flat Earth. And as always, folks, you decide. There's a lot on this, folks. I can go into quantum mechanics, thermal, I can go into the seasons, the way the winds move, pretty much every single major part of the scientific world that you go into in or around the flat Earth area. We'll run you about a 30 to 45 minute session. This is an overview of a general science, given that flat Earth does kind of work with the theory. Some of my examples are not always going to be exact. Some people, I noticed, forgot units, but I will point that out as we move through this. I got a lot of requests to actually do a science proving flat Earth documentary, and I really wanted to do this right. This picture I have is supposed to be the best guess of what the planet is supposed to look like in a flat Earth scenario. Now, I heard that this is actually spiffed up of the actual image itself, but to me it looks like a CGI rendering, so I don't really know. I've shown this in a number of videos, and in a number of videos you guys got to see this, and I believe I was the first one, or at least supposedly the first one, to actually show you this. So, what do we really want to talk about today? Well, I don't really want to go into gravity and things of that nature. This is kind of a part 1 video. I might choose to do a part 2 next week, or I might choose to do others. It all depends on how this goes. I've been trying to get into the quantum mechanics and the Earth thermodynamics and certain things of that sort to prove whether or not there's a donut shape, or you guys get the idea. And you'll prove that by the water currents, where it's warm, where it's hot, and then kind of track it. So this will be a quick intro. Well, not really quick. It'll be about 35 minutes, I imagine, if not more. And I got some good stuff to show you. I got a little bit of history at the end of this too. I got a scholar from Islam and a bunch of resources from Christianity, which go back probably to its founding, that show that there were flat Earth maps back then, and how similar they are to the Azululith model, something like that. And basically, this is kind of, if there is an actual flat Earth, this is what I kind of believe it looks like. Now, I don't know why McMurdo is missing a chunk. I don't understand what the situation is with that. I'm not the kind of flat earther or person thereof that would believe that there are planes, other Earth habitats, if you will, beyond our poles. I still kind of believe in the planets. I believe in them for my own reasoning, and that is because I've been a pilot. I have seen the skies, I have seen this, I have seen that, and even though I have proven with that one video that there was a rocket that hit something like an Earth dome, I'm not still convinced myself of the actual Earth dome and several other parameters of this. But I am somewhat convinced that pretty much everything we've been told is an exact lie, for any number of reasons. And we'll never know those, so we can kind of just get around the idea one way or another. First thing I really want to talk to you about is that I chose the flat Earth to do another video on because my first one has over 7,000 views, and thank you guys very much for sharing that and doing that. And I wish you guys would share my last 3 or 4 as much as you shared my first 3 or 4. What I really want to get into, folks, into these is showing the thermodynamics, the quantum mechanics, and showing the heart sciences, as I would call them, and being able to go from there into what everybody else knows. So what I want to do, folks, is I want to get into everything, and I want to start researching this and everything. So my first situation is actually a video I found online. And what this actually shows is seawater temperature on Earth, or on the quote-unquote flat Earth. And for educational purposes, folks, I can show the whole thing, so I'm going to. There's a bunch of videos I chose to do, a bunch of videos I chose not to do, pictures I chose to show you, pictures I chose not to show you. And there's a bunch here, folks. Let me go into this a little bit, and then I'll show you the video. The seawater temperature, when converted to the azimuthal flat Earth map, reveals perfectly the path around the Sun above the flat Earth of Tropic of Cancer. This part here. Most center point of the Tropic of Capricorn, the outer ring. The Sun stays within the path throughout the entire year. This also helps illustrate the seasons and the temperatures in regards to the Sun's location. So what does that mean, folks? That means that there's only one path that the Sun travels at. It isn't in asymmetrical format. It's in a nice straight line or a curve, kind of like a twisted figure eight is what they'll show later. Is what I'll show later. And it shows you throughout the year, this being the one of Capricorn, or Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer out here. And what this will show you is that beyond a reasonable doubt, there is actually something to this. And the reason is because of the curvature of the Earth.
The various currents and temperatures make a lot of sense.
I'll show you the front part, and I'll go down and do it, and I'll show you the bottom. Okay, now I'll show you the bottom. So you see us spinning here, and then it's spinning here. And I want you guys to notice, it's actually really red in the middle. That's very key to understanding that there's an actual physiological thermodynamic reaction to both the wind, the water, all the thermal pockets, and everything else to this world that we live in. Regardless if it's flat, dome-shaped, pear-shaped, globe, I don't care at this point. There is a method to the madness, and this is basically what it looks like here. Oddly enough, is the top one and this one and that one does not actually show the hole in the Earth, which I know to be fact because I've seen pictures of pilots who have stripes on their arms that go all the way from their shoulder to their wrist, who have flown in those regions, who have actually seen this stuff firsthand. Alright, this next one's a little bit more on temperature and everything else, and it kind of goes into it a little bit, so this is good. Donald J. Potts. Seasons of the Flat Earth. The sun starts in its most northern position above head at Tropic of Cancer on the summer solstice of June 21st, red on the map. It then spirals outward toward the equator and arrives there where it is the midpoint of its journey at the equinox, yellow on the circle. It continues to travel south, most position of the Tropic of Capricorn, on the winter solstice of December 21st, blue on map. And once it's reached its southernmost point, it stays there for 3 days and then begins its journey back to the Tropic of Cancer. Passing the equator yet again at a fall equinox and arrives at the northernmost point again in June, or by June. When the sun is above the Tropic of Cancer, red ring, it is summer in the northern hemisphere and the winter in the southern hemisphere. This one gets a little confusing, folks. Okay, here we go. The heliocentric model claims the seasons change based on the ball Earth's alleged axial tilt and the elliptical orbit around the sun. Their flawed current model even places us closest to the sun at 91,400,000 miles in January, when it's actual winter, and furthest from the sun 94,500,000 miles in July, when it's actually summer throughout much of the Earth. They say due to the ball Earth's tilt, different places receive different amounts of direct sunlight. That is what produces seasons and temperature changes. This makes little sense, however, because the sun's heat travels over 90 million miles to reach the ball Earth. How could a slight tilt, a mere few thousand miles maximum, negate the sun's 90 million mile journey, giving us simultaneously tropic summers and Antarctic winters? Good question. This is the part I love, folks. The Earth is a stretched out structure which diverges from the central north in all directions toward the sun. The equator, being midway between the north center and southern circumference, divides the course of the sun into north and south declination. The longest circle around the world which the sun makes is, when it has reached greatest southern declination, gradually going northwards toward the circle is contracted. In about 3 months after the southern extremity of its path has been reached, the sun makes a circle around the equator, still pushing around, pursuing a northerly course as it goes around and above the world. In another 3 months, greater northern declination is reached, when the sun again begins to go toward the south. In north latitudes, when the sun is going north, it rises earlier each day. It's higher in the noon and sets later. While in the southern latitudes, the same time, the sun, as a matter of course, rises later, reaches lesser altitude at noon, and sets later. In northern latitude, during the southern summer, say September to December, the sun rises later each day, is lower at noon, and sets earlier. While the south rises earlier, reaches a higher altitude at noon, and sets each day later. This movement around the Earth, hang on, getting up here. This movement around the Earth daily is the cause of the alternations of the day and night, while its northerly and southerly courses produce seasons. When the sun is south of the equator, it is summer in the south and winter in the north, vice versa, and vice versa. The fact of the alternation of the seasons flatly contradicts the Newtonian delusion that the Earth revolves around an orbit around the sun. It is said that the summer is caused by the Earth being nearest to the sun and winter being furthest from the sun. But if the reader will follow the argument in any textbook, he will see that the according theory, when the Earth is nearest the sun, there must be summer in both northern and southern latitudes. And in the like manner, when it's furthest from the sun, it must be winter in all Earth and all the same time in both latitudes. Because the whole of the globe Earth would then be farthest from the sun. In short, it is impossible to account for a reoccurrence of the seasons on the assumption that the Earth is globular and that it revolves in an orbit around a sun. Thomas Winship, Zetetic Cosmogony, 124-25, or 124 to 125. Down here, basically, it says, the seasons are caused by the sun's circuit around the Earth in a spiroelliptic. In the winter solstice, December 21, the sun is vertical over the Tropic of Capricorn. Looking south from London, it appears to make a small circuit in the south sky, and we'll go over this, folks, in a minute. During the time, or the period, it is across the sky at almost overhead in Cape Town, thus causing the summer in southern hemisphere. In the summer solstice, June 21st, the sun is vertical over the Tropic of Cancer, nearly overhead in London. While looking north from Cape Town, it appears in a small circuit around northern sky, causing winter in the southern and summer in the northern hemisphere. E. Sheeny, Foundations of Many Generations 7, by somebody named Ashley Webster. So there's a lot here, folks. You're going to have to go in this and do your own homework and everything. I'm going to flip back over here for 1 second. Okay, now we continue. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you this real quick because this is actually very important. If the sun is 94 million miles away, or even 9,400,000 miles away, like it's supposed to be, why does the moon in this picture, taken from the very closest point of the North Pole, seem to suggest we are only a few thousand or a few 100,000 miles from either the moon or an extended 100,000 from the sun? I highly doubt this is an illusion. This is coming from Graham Vetch, or Graham Vetch. This is the sunset in the northern pole with the moon at its closest point this week. A scene you will probably never get to see in person, so take a moment and enjoy. And you also see the sun below the moon, an amazing photo, and not one easily duplicated. You may want to pass it on to others. Enjoy. So, that's something to ponder, folks. It doesn't show you anything. Okay, folks, this is actually very important. There was a video a while back that there was water in somebody's helmet. and they had to stop because there was water in somebody's helmet. Well, I think they said that there was liquid. I think that was the official story. There was liquid building up in the helmet, so they had to stop. So they stopped, and everybody wondered what was going on. Well, through FOIA and everything else, folks, the astronaut's name was Tim Peake. And it was getting kind of on the sketchy side as to what was going on, but they had to cut, and people had to go in there and assist him. Well, you can say either photo is fake. It no longer matters. And yes, I do have the actual video. But the spacewalk was cut short because of water in Tim Peake's helmet. And this is the actual video, folks.
Working at the base of the 1B
Look very
solar
close.
array.
All right, gentlemen, looking great. Glad to see you both out there
For the water bubble.
of the world.
Tim Peake now has joined Copra. We await the go-ahead to proceed
Here it is.
with other work that will occur in night.
I'll show it one more time. In fact, I'll show it 2 or 3 times.
Working at the base of the 1B solar array.
All right, gentlemen, looking great. Glad to see you both out there together on the tip of the world.
Tim Peake now has joined Copra. We await the go-ahead to proceed with other work that will occur in night.
It's very hard to see it in this video, but there are actual bubbles.
Great. Glad to see you both out there together on the tip of the world.
Tim Peake now has joined Copra. We await the go-ahead to proceed with other work that will occur in night.
One more time.
Working at the base
and this
of the
time
1B
I will
solar
stop
array.
it.
All right, gentlemen, looking great. Glad to see you both out there together on the tip of the world.
Tim Peake now has joined Copra. We await the go.
So let's back it up, see if we can see it.
Go ahead.
So what I'll do is I'll go here.
We await the.
There's been bubbles in several parts of it. One's here. There were 2 or 3 in other areas. Let's back it up a little bit.
Copra. We
right there when he does that, you can see there's a bubble over here. So you really got to watch this in better quality to actually see what everybody else said. But this is going out there, and this is stretching that the delusion we've been told is an absolute lie. Do I believe there's an actual space mission and ISS and everything? Yes. But I don't believe it's anything you and I have been seen. I think everything we see is nothing but training videos. So when videos like this do happen, you know, they get talked about because they were the training videos and they were not the actual videos. Because they don't want us to see the actual videos. For a whole list more of reasons. Alright, folks. This is basically the idea here. What we're seeing is the northern and southern hemispheres together. And basically they're connecting the dots on the quote-unquote flat earth. I remember being in school and being told that if you look in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, none of the constellations are going to line up. They're going to be completely different every single day, yada, 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 yada. It's not actually true. They're just reverse. So, the moon from the northern and southern hemiplanes, or hemispheres, if you still believe that. These are 2 pictures of the moon and Venus and Jupiter side by side of the moon in 2 different hemiplanes, south and north. The picture on the right was taken from Oklahoma, and the picture on the left was taken from Australia, 2 hours north of Sydney. We put them side by side to further gain understanding of how the same constellations and moon positions from above hemiplanes, but different perspectives. We then plotted the locations on the Earth, or the flat Earth style map, to better grasp the perspective on how each person is seeing the 3 celestial bodies from different views. As you can see, folks, doesn't lie. Alright, this one here is a little bit easier to understand. Animals have different migrations all around the world. The humpback whale migration pattern on the flat Earth is very different. It's absolutely away from what we know of as land. Migration patterns of the humpback whales on the azimuthal equidistant flat Earth map, written and created by Ashley Webster. So Ashley Webster did a great job. I don't see her in any of these videos, even to know whether or not she's still on Facebook or Twitter or any of these others. Alright, this is what they were talking about before, folks. When you can plot the sun or the moon's course in the sky, the solar system or the moon system, and their heliopathic direction in the sky. So, this is one of the ones in Buenos Aires in the southern hemisphere, and the same thing is in Japan. I don't know what island of Japan exactly, but hey. And so it is in Lima, and case is closed that this is actually like this. So, anyways, this is the way it looks, and this is the sun being plotted. I don't know if this was done every day or if they skipped a few days or what, because I know there should be a lot more, but this is how it looks. So this is basically this. Now, there is a theory, and I haven't gone into this much, that the moon actually moves in an opposite direction from what we usually would see. Everybody talks about this who is into the whole flat earth thing. I haven't actually researched it, but I'm going to look into it for a next video because I've always wanted to touch on it, but I've never really had the really good statistics to really show you. They want you to believe that the moon's rotation is perfectly synchronized with its orbit, and that's why we only ever see one side of the moon, rather than conclude the obvious that the moon is simply not rotating. You know, I've always kind of believed that, but I've never really understood it. But, okay, for the sake of conversation, let's say it doesn't rotate. Moreover, the powers that be had to slow down the moon's speed. Again, that makes no sense, but to 58,870 miles per hour and reverse its direction west-east successfully to sell their phony heliocentricity system to a gullible public. Regardless of your education, basically the Copernican model had to turn the moon's observable direction around and give it a new speed to accommodate the phase and ellipses from a Marshall Hall. The moon presented in a special math problem for the construction of the heliocentricity model, or heliocentric model. The only way to make the moon fit with the other assumptions was to reverse its directions from what everyone who has ever lived has seen it go. The model could just stop the moon like it did the sun. That wouldn't work. And it couldn't let it continue to go east to west as we see it go, either at the same speed or at different speeds. The only option was to reverse the observed east to west direction and change its speed from about 64,000 miles an hour to about 2,200 miles an hour. This reversal, along with the change in speed, were unavoidable assumptions that needed to be adopted if the model was to have chance to mimic reality. So we have this, and this just shows what the other one showed, how the constellations are reverse This will all be in the, in the part here. So this one shows basically the showing of the sun in different parts of the day. You can see them down here with the coordinating pictures. The Royal Belgian Geographic Society and the expedition Antarctic Balage or Balage recorded during the most several parts of the Antarctic winter, 71 degrees south latitude onwards. The sunset on May 17th is not above the horizon. Again, July 1st or July 21st. This is completely odd with the ball Earth theory, but easily explained by the flat Earth model. The midnight sun is seen from high latitudes and extreme north latitudes during Arctic summer because of the sun. At its innermost cycle, it is circling tightly enough around the polar center that it remains visible above the horizon for someone at such a vantage point. That its extreme southern latitudes during the Arctic winter, and the sun completely disappears from the view over 2 months because of their northern tropic and innermost Arctic or arc of the boomerang journey. The sun is circling north, centered tightly to be seen in the southern circumference. Ugh. Sorry, folks. Basically, this gives the midnight sun, the Arctic phenomenon occurring annually during the summer solstice, where several days straight an observer significantly far enough from the north can watch the sun traveling circles overhead, rising and falling in the sky throughout the day, but never fully setting upward 72 hours. If the sun were actually spinning, or a spinning globe revolving around the sun, the only place such a phenomenon as the midnight sun could be observed would be at the poles, and the vantage point of 89 degrees latitude downward could never happen, regardless of any tilt or inclination. See the sun for 24 hours straight. See the sun for an entire revolution on a spinning globe at a point over. Then the poles, you would have to be looking through miles and miles of land and see for the revolution or the spinning. This, folks, here is very different as to whether or not these numbers equate for everything you see and don't see. But basically, there's math that gives the curvature of the Earth, and you can negate it all you want. Basically, this model here shows that instead of the 16,000 or the 161,000 or the 16,193.89 curve, basically it comes down to 322.75 feet below horizon. So these numbers are giving you that not only is the distance wrong, the curvature is wrong, and everything else is wrong. And I'll let you go into what this is. Basically, it says that one says it's 24.7 at sea level from Calais. The other one says basically Calais is approximately 400 feet lower at the location due to the curvature of the Earth. And if you go into here and everything, you go for the current version, it's basically from 0 to 200 miles within one finger, entering the space with about 1253, and you can go from there, and you come out with a target vector of about 322.75. So basically, this is actually pretty good. I mean, we actually see this going on. And this basically just shows you the stretched out model that the sun kind of doesn't really circle. It just kind of shows up, goes around, and that's it. Now, do I believe in all of this? Yeah, not so much. What I know is that when you're in the air, folks, everything looks flat. So unless you're like 100 miles or 100 million miles away and 20 million miles away and then a million miles away, any object is going to seem flat or concave or convex in any major form. Now this guy was not supposed to be a really good guy, but again, opinions are irrelevant at this point when you say this. What I'm trying to show here, folks, is this guy here was a sheik from Saudi Arabia who made an important talk in 1993. He said the earth is flat. Whoever claims it's round is an atheist deserving of punishment. Well, that's kind of the way that that part of the world kind of sees things, but I wanted to show you this because it kind of gives you the idea of what you've been told. Now, this is called the Flat Earth Bible, and regardless of whether or not you believe in anything, it basically goes into different quotes from the Bible, and from those quotes, they go into various references and how the earth actually is supposed to look. And it goes into different things, you know. I'm not even going to go through this because this is way too much, and they give more reference points, so this is good. Goes into the stars, the Book of Enoch, special apologetics, weaker argument, celestial body, shape of the earth, the vault heaven, the order of creation, everything else. And from there, you get a bunch of different things. This is another one which kind of goes into some of this. And what I wanted to bring you this is because there's actually a great quote. And I wanted to go into this a little bit more, but I didn't really want to touch on it too much. But basically, the church says the earth is flat, but I know that it's round. For I have seen the shadow of the moon, and I know my faith in a shadow and in the church. And what this basically goes into, and I looked this up, and I didn't really want to put up the source, so what I'll do is I'll reference it. I think a few of the photos I'm going to show are from the source, so you can actually go through it and get everything done. What this actually shows is that basically one of the founders, Thomas Aquinas, was actually the one to push the church in the direction where the earth was actually round. The church never really cared whether it was round or flat, but this guy gained ground, and they kind of pretty much supported him because at that point it was Cultural Revolution, and they just kind of wanted it to go away and not be a big deal to what they were doing in their day-to-day. So, from that point on, the earth was pretty much seen as round, and I believe the Pope at the time, I forget his name, did come out and actually vet, yes, we believe it is round, but moreover, even today's world, they kind of go over and say, you know what, we know it's a little bit more flat and this and that and everything else, and people are actually starting to learn that more. So, I'm actually very happy to show you these things, and this is actually a diagram of a TO map in 12th century. This is supposed to basically be how they observed the Earth. Asia, Europe, Africa. And this is kind of the way they really thought of it. I can't read any of this, so I'm not even going to try, but this shows you a very early flat Earth map. This is another one. This is one, Global Tronus or something like that, and this basically shows you how that back then they really did look at a globe in these patterns. The moon, the Earth, Venus, you get it, all the planets and how it was arranged basically in a flat Earth theory. You got Aquarius, and they got all the signs over here. So this does kind of go back and show you that these guys weren't completely idiots, and they weren't just trying to sell you something. They were actually trying to get everything the way it was. So this information's been around a long time. Whether or not you choose to accept it, you decide. That's kind of the idea here. And where I'm at in my discovery is that it doesn't do me any good to say the Earth is a globe, the Earth is flat. Well, that doesn't make any more money come into my pockets from the central banking cartels basically poisoning our Earth, our food, our water, our wind, our air, everything we know, see, hear, feel, touch, etc. So you guys get the idea. Thank you, and always you decide.